Let's make this $300 luxurious peony bridal bouquet with only $35 worth of Trader Joe's flowers. Hi, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to show you how to make a hand-tied bridal bouquet using these gorgeous peonies I purchased from Trader Joe's. So let's get started. So we are really going to make a beautiful, expensive bridal bouquet with all peonies today for only $35. I bought beautiful peonies from Trader Joe's in an assortment of colors. Primarily we have white peonies, these beautiful Festiva Maxima peonies. We're also going to accent it with these paler pink Sarah Bernhardt peonies. And then we're going to have a pop of color in our bouquet with these Dr. Fleming peonies. For those of you who have not watched the video, please watch my video about processing and buying peonies, because that's a lot of what you need to know for making your own peony bouquet. Now, peonies aren't going to all open perfectly for you on your wedding day, so you're going to have to really time it perfectly. All right, so let's get started with making a hand-tied peony bridal bouquet. In addition to these peonies, I have purchased white stock, also from Trader Joe's. I believe it's 8 or 10 stems of stock for $4.99. And I'm going to use some faux Queen Anne's lace in here. The reason I'm using faux Queen Anne's lace is I love that texture. I think it's going to be gorgeous with peonies, but real Queen Anne's lace doesn't last very well out of water, and it also tends to shatter. So what I have here is short stems that I cut from a sprig that I purchased from Hobby Lobby. It was only $4.50 for a sprig of Queen Anne's lace, and I was able to cut all the short pieces off from that sprig. There's 7 sprigs here. And what I did was wire these on longer wires. So I wired and taped all the short pieces from the Queen Anne's lace so that we can use it in our hand-tied bouquet. And so all in all, I have 12 stems of Trader Joe's peonies, and the peonies were 5 stems for $9.99. So each stem is $2. So 12 stems of peonies at $9.99 for 5 gives you $2 per stem, and 12 stems will give us $24 for the peonies, about $5 for the stock, $4.50 for the Queen Anne's lace. So we are at about $35. And for greenery, you can use whatever greenery you would like, but what I'm using today are actual peony foliage. Now, these didn't come with the peonies because when you buy peonies, the foliage is just a little bit on the stem. These I cut from my peony bushes in my garden. Now, being in Northern California, I did not get even one peony this year because we had a very mild winter, but the foliage was beautiful, so I'm going to use the foliage. All right, so let's get started on our bouquet. Now, very important when you're doing bouquets and hand-tied bouquets and bridal bouquets, bridesmaids bouquets, is what I call your mise en place. If those of you who cook, you have to have all your ingredients trimmed and laid out in front of you. So I've defoliated all the stock, took off any florets that are not perfect. Greenery's cut down to about the right length for me to use. And then the peonies are all conditioned and ready to use. So have all your materials laid out in front of you. And to tie off the bouquet, you can either use tape. I've always used tape. I usually buy the 1-inch tape. This is the 1/2 inch. I ran out of the 1 inch, so I have the 1/2 inch, or you can use bind wire. Bind wire is wire that's covered in sort of like a papery coating, and it comes in long big spools like this. And instead of having in the spool making a mess, I have several pieces of bind wire cut already. They're still pretty long, but they're in individual pieces so that if I wanted to use it, I could just grab and use it. Because one hand is going to be holding the bouquet, the other is going to be adding materials in. So when you're done with your bouquet, you don't want to have to be fussing, for your clippers or your wire. And then I have my beloved Felco clippers and some scissors for cutting ribbon. I also have number 9 white satin ribbon here for tying off the bouquet handle. And I have my box of pins. Now, we're not going to be using the corsage pins, but I'm using these little tiny half-inch pearl pins. These are available in floral supply stores. They're wonderful because what I'll show you, we secure the ribbon onto the handle of your bouquet with these little tiny pearl pins. So what I usually do when I start with my bouquet is I find the flowers I want in the center of the bouquet, the ones that are going to be facing the bride and going to be the top of the bouquet. So I've got, look at these peonies. Can you believe these are $2 a stem? I mean, Trader Joe's is just amazing for flowers. So I'm going to have 2 stems of the white, and I think I'm going to have one of my Sarah Bernhardts here. Now, some of the Sarah Bernhardts did not make it, so I only have 2 stems of it. But I think with all these different colors, we'll make it work. Then I'm just going to put a Dr. Fleming here. And then you just kind of compose it in your hand as you go. Maybe another white here, perhaps another pink right here. See, I'm kind of turning it as I go. It's not going to be like a perfect spiral. I've seen people do the perfect spirals. I'm not that skilled. It's not necessary. I actually had somebody do a demonstration once when I was taking floral design classes. He's a gentleman from Holland who did such a perfect spiral on his hand-tied bouquet that he cut the stem, put it on the counter. It was so balanced that it stood on its own. Okay, that's not going to happen here today unless there's special effects. Okay. This reminds me of doing weddings. Haven't done a hand-tied bouquet in a while. Now I could have gone with all white bouquet for this, but I thought a little bit of pink would be really pretty in bridal bouquets. And I think we're kind of getting away from all white bouquets all the time for brides. Now I've got all the peonies added so we kind of know sort of the dimension and shape of our bouquet. Now this is gorgeous by itself. If you like a more clean look, modern look, you could be just done right now. But I like to add in a little bit of texture and accent just to break it up. So I'm going to add in the stalk. We use stalk sort of to fill in on the perimeters when the bouquet is not perfectly round. And I'm also going to add in the greenery. The greenery is really going to make a big impact on this bouquet. And I like having greenery around the perimeter of a bouquet. So this is sort of, subjective. Depends on what you like. Some people really like the clean look of all flowers, no greenery. The Martha Stewart weddings look, for those of you old enough to remember the early 90s. But I like having a little greenery. I think it makes it more natural and sets off the bouquet, and it sets it off against a white bridal gown. So I'm going to add in some greenery around the perimeters. I'm not going to go overboard. We can always add a little more in later. Okay. And when you're doing bridal bouquets, you want to make sure you are using the most beautiful materials available. Like when we're buying peonies and roses and greenery, we save the most pristine, most gorgeous peonies and roses for the bridal bouquet, because you could get away with, a little bit of flaw in the centerpieces and whatnot. So I've got the greenery added in. We're going to go ahead and add in a little bit of stalk around the perimeters. That little bit of that green tip in the stalk is really beautiful. It's kind of a go-to for me when we're doing bouquets if I need a little accent, but don't want to add too much, alien elements, let's just say, because it's very neutral, and stalk comes on all these colors that work well with weddings. We have the white here. There's the pale apple blossom blush, which I love. Pale peach, all sorts of lavenders, violets, just gorgeous. I love stalk. It's not the longest lasting flower, but it definitely will be fine in a bouquet for the hours it's going to be out of water, for all the hours. That's very important to know for those of you doing your own bouquet, or if you're doing this as a business, to know what flowers will hold up for many hours in a wedding. And always, kind of look and assess to see if you need to add more. When I do this, I wish I had big man hands. My hands are very small. It's hard to grasp all these stems. And this is not even a very big bouquet. We've done some monster bouquets, the ones that are very much in vogue now with, huge cascades of eucalyptus and whatnot. I think we're done with the stalk. I'm going to put it aside. Now we're going to add in our faux Queen Anne's lace. These are incredible realistic. I mean, I can't even tell. I mean, it's so well done. That's why I'm going to use the silk. Now, I don't shy away from using silks here and there in bouquets, wedding work, and even arrangements at home, because sometimes they just are the perfect thing, right? Like I could see faux Lily of the Valley in here would be gorgeous, because really hard to work with Lily of the Valley. Here, it's very, very expensive to buy Lily of the Valley, and it's not always available, and the stems are really short. So when I have to do Lily of the Valley, I'll do some faux Lily of the Valley. See how a little bit of that Queen Anne's lace just makes it a little more romantic? I kind of like that frilly texture to break up the tight ball of peonies, but it's still an extremely lush look, this peony bouquet, because we don't have a lot of greenery or anything inside the bouquet itself. I'm going to add another sprig of greenery here. The peony greenery is gorgeous on my peony bushes, but not one bloom this year. Oh, wow. Some trade-offs, right? We have incredible weather here in Northern California, so no complaints. Okay. Boy, this is really gorgeous. I wish I was doing a real wedding. All right, so now we are done. What I usually do is trim it a little bit before I tie it off. We're going to trim it again, but sometimes, you have some stems that are really long. What I usually do is in my mise en place, when I'm getting things ready, I will cut it a little shorter already to start with, so that I'm not dealing with like really uneven stems that are, hitting the counter all the time. Okay. So I'm going to use a tape. I know a lot of people use bind wire, but I'm used to using tape. Now, this is not the ideal tape. If you're using it to bind off, to tie off your bouquet, the best would be the 1 inch, the slightly fatter version of this. And it comes in white. And that's what I usually do for bouquets, so that you've got a white handle that will be hidden better by your ribbon. So I'm going to try to do this with the little 1/2 inch. Got to put it on the list to buy some 1 inch floral tape. I forget, because I buy them by the box, and each box has like 12 rolls. So I only buy it like once every couple years. So it's really easy to forget to buy it. So this is working out really well. So I'm kind of holding it firmly at the bottom as I'm taping it off. Now, I had a gal who worked with me who played tennis, and she always says that this reminds her of taping her tennis rackets. Definitely refer to my video on peony processing and purchasing, because one of the reasons why peonies bouquets are very expensive is because we're not going to be able to use every stem of peony sometimes when we buy. Some of it won't bloom perfectly, and it's quite a trick to time it well. In the video, I talk about how to buy peonies, what to look for, and if you wanted to store peonies, say you have an event in July, and there's still beautiful peonies in mid-June, you could trick nature by buying the peonies Not super tight, but definitely in bud. Keeping it out of water. Do not recut the stems and put it in water. And cold store it. Just kind of wrap it in, like butcher paper, newspaper, or even just like brown paper bag. Just wrap it, put it in the fridge away from any fruits or vegetables that will give off ethylene gases. Of course, I have it in a floral fridge. You can actually cold store your peonies for a couple of weeks and they will be okay. They're not going to bloom and they're not going to go bad. Just keep it dry and don't cut the stems, because once you cut the stems and put it in water, the peonies start developing, okay? So that's a little trick if you need to extend the peony season a little bit. Okay, so I always just kind of judge, how long the handle should be. It should be, definitely bigger than one hand width, but not much more. So one hand width plus maybe 2-3 inches on the bottom. And then I'm just going to cut off the extra stems. The wonderful thing about these hand-tied bouquets is I usually make them the day before the wedding and then put them in vases and store them in the cooler. Because all your stems are still intact, they'll still absorb water. So this is really no different than if you did a vase arrangement, except they're just all tied together. And that way we could store in the fridge and not have to make all these bouquets the day of the wedding. And in fact, I delivered the bouquets in vases. I used to tie it off with ribbon and then package it in boxes. But the problem with that is often when you're doing a delivery, you're there 4 hours before the ceremony because the bride wants you there for photos, this, that, and the other. And inevitably, they're going to be late. So you're going to be there with the bouquets and they're just out of water. So we actually deliver our bouquets in water now. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how we do ribbon wrap. So we start from the top, we go down, kind of the same action as when you're doing the floral tape. And it's something you just have to practice, just kind of like keeping that tension so that you don't have gaps in the ribbon. And you want to go down sort of at a slight spiraling diagonal. That keeps the tape kind of taut also. And we use number 9 ribbon for this. You can go number 40, which is wider than this, but I think the number 9 seems to work the best because the number 40, sometimes you'll get a gap because the ribbon is too wide. So it's kind of your preference, but don't go any narrower than these number 9 ribbons. And then we're going to go back up. So we started from the top, we went all the way down. Now we're going to wind our way up. I always double up the ribbon on the bouquet so that you don't see any green, and it just looks much more, finished because you've got less of the stems and the textures of the stems showing. Just a much more finished look. You only end up using a couple of feet more ribbon. And ribbon these days is pretty inexpensive. When I first started in the business in the early 90s, ribbon was really, really expensive. Cut it off. What I do is I will fold the cut end in itself so that you have a perfectly clean finish here. And then this is when we use these little tiny pearl pins. So you don't tie it off. I don't tie off the ribbon. I just hold it like this with my thumb. And then I put these little pearl pins in, the 1/2-inch ones, go up into the bouquet. You're not going to worry. You don't have to worry. It's not going to, the pin part is so short, it's never going to go through the bouquet and prick somebody. But we still go up. And then I try to just kind of make it equal distance so it looks like a little row of pearl buttons. It's really beautiful and it holds your ribbon in place. I've made thousands of bridal bouquets. Never had one ribbon unravel. Sometimes I'll go back to pick up rental items and things after the wedding, and all the bouquets are still pristine and perfect. We are all done with our gorgeous, gorgeous peony bridal bouquet. Now, this is a bouquet that I would retail for about $250 to $300. We made it with $35 worth of Trader Joe's peonies, stock, and some faux Queen Anne's lace. And now the way we would deliver this is I would put it in either a cylinder vase. Here I have an oversized mint julep cup that I think would be cute. And then we would present it like this. And I would have little towels, wrapped with ribbon, placed in the dressing room for the bride so that she can wick off the water when she's ready for photos. And another great thing of delivering your bouquets and vases that are decorative is I always suggest to my brides that they can reuse this either on their sweetheart table or wedding party table. They can have the bridal bouquet and the bridesmaids bouquets and vases, and that would magnify whatever other decor we have, and maybe save them some money. So that is how you make a peony bridal bouquet using only $35 of Trader Joe flowers. Definitely watch my video on how to purchase, process, and time your peonies for optimal results. As always, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.